right, so welcome to the podcast today. We are Chloe Pham English. Is that what we should be calling us?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so my name is Luke, and we are going to be talking about, in particular, Australia and English today. So, first question: how are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, by the way, my name is Chloe.
Yes, I do have a second person here with me as well. I guess from here, maybe we can just ask about the first thing. How did you come to Australia?
I would say it's a very long story. Yeah, because studying in Australia, in terms of studying in Australia, I would say is a very fruitful experience from the very beginning because we have to pass the language test and then we have to apply the student visa, and sometimes they probably won't issue students the student visa. Yeah, anyway, I passed those and then I came to Australia and study here and graduate here and so far live here.
Oh. So I already kind of know these because I talk to you quite often, but how about you tell us about what you felt about, what was your impression of Melbourne when you first arrived?
I would say it's not a very impressive city to begin with, but after I lived here for quite a while, I found out this is a very interesting city to live in. Yeah, because we can't just see like something like Sydney Opera House or like Harbour Bridge. Yeah. And it reminded me a lot when I live in Tokyo. Yeah, it's just like that kind of vibe. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I see. Oh, I'm gonna have to pull you up on that not impressive thing. What do you mean not impressive? Being from Melbourne myself, you gotta explain, what did you find not impressive?
I would say because I don't know, just like it's just so many. It's just some skyscraper.
The skyscrapers.
Yeah, and then it just seems like every big city has that. Yeah, there are many. Yeah,
Melbourne sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're still here, so evidently you do still like Melbourne quite a lot. But let's go on to the next topic that I have from there. I know that you study language and linguistics. That's correct.
Yes, I did, and I just got a degree last year. Yeah, and
what was the degree?
Yeah, my master degree last year.
Nice.
And about the linguistic, I would say it's very fruitful here. It's also very fruitful here. And yeah, I will talk about the reason why I choose to study in Australia. Yeah, just as a linguistic nerd, a language nerd, living in Asia, and one day you just discover one thing is, wow, every language seems to base on North Hemisphere. Yeah, because when you hear the Christmas songs, you just found out like, oh, why they talk about the cold winter night? But in Australia, in December, it's very hot. Right? Yeah.
That's right. Because in Asia, they mainly focus on North American accents, and that's what's preferred. But you want to try and go outside of American English at the very least, and explore that, right?
Yeah, and so I kind of think like Australia and Canada are very mysterious to me in terms of this. But I don't like Northern American accents, so I choose to study in Australia.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It's difficult. I could offend some people like this, but I find it difficult to differentiate between Canadian and American accents. That said, I know a lot of people think that British and Australian and New Zealand accents sound really similar for that matter, but yeah, I can clearly tell the difference though.
I can also tell you the alphabet, not alphabet, the pronunciation, that transcription, that kinds of pronunciation tips or pronunciation skills are totally different. Yeah, because I would say like before I came to Australia, I pronounce Australia, I mean like for that AU, I pronounce like oh. Yeah, it's more British way. And then I have some European friends, they told me like that is actually they also pronounce that AU is something like they also pronounce like all. But after I came to Australia, I found out I already maybe I just already a bit like like evolution generation in China. I just feel like okay, I just get used to it and pick it out. So later I just say Australia or Australia like this.
For people who are dumb at linguistics and pronunciation,
Yeah.
I know you were just talking about some pronunciation things. Can you explain what you mean by the specifics of the pronunciation, like sounds and that chart you were just kind of talking about then?
I would say I just named the example like AU, for example, Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
And Australia,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah. Because before I came to Australia, I pronounced as all. Yeah, Australia.
Australia.
Yeah, more British way.
Yeah.
And after I came to Australia, I found out I just take Australian culture and then pronounce that Australia.
I see.
Yeah.
Wait. How do you say Melbourne?
Yeah, in the past I said Melbourne.
Melbourne. Oh,
Yeah.
so American. Oh, get out.
Yeah, yeah, but now I pronounce that Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne, there you go.
Yeah, so then we know like Australian English is so different from so different from British English.
Yeah, you can have your Australian citizenship now. If
Yeah.
you say Melbourne, people will be like, "What are you talking about, man?" And you say, "Oh, I'm from Melbourne," and they go, "Oh, yeah. You're Australian as far as we're concerned."
Yeah.
But there you go. So, talking about that Australian English, well, I know that you did a little bit of, it's not even a little bit, a lot of study into the specifics of the world Englishes and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Can you tell us more about that?
I would say about the world Englishes is actually is very interesting now because they not only study about native speaker, but they also study about non-native speaker, and also study something like former colonies, such as English in former colonies, such as Singapore, South Africa, or like Nigeria. Yeah, this kinds of area. And yeah, I sometimes feel it's very interesting, especially like we talk about like the non-native speaker English. I don't know whether you heard of like Joy Luck Club, that book.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it though.
Okay.
Or read it at least.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I just briefing what that book is. It's actually talk about the Chinese immigration in America. And what I found out is interesting is they have Chinese English there.
Yeah.
And it's also quite interesting is they are grammatically correct, but you can tell it's not English.
Like, what do you mean it's not English?
For example, there are so many Chinese terms. Yeah, there are so many Chinese way to describe it. And then as a Chinese native speaker, people can probably spot it easily. But for English native speaker, they probably just feel like that doesn't sound English to them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some of the grammar patterns are different. So like one that I can notice is something to be like, oh, no good.
Yeah.
And technically you can understand the meaning and go, oh, it's not good, right?
Yeah.
But then sometimes I think what you're trying to point out is that they use the same sort of words and meanings, but then just replace it with English words, and then this is how you get that that type of English. And I know that what is it? Doesn't matter if it's Chinese or like Spanish or whatever language it is. It just ends up people tend to use the same grammar patterns that were in their native language. Is that somewhere? Am I understanding that somewhat correctly, or?
Yes, is it like this? And since you mentioned about Spanish, and I heard like what is already become a kind of greeting in English is hope the latter finds you well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is something from Spanish.
Yeah.
And I would like to also share about like Japanese English.
That's right. You speak well. Yeah, you lived in Japan for a little bit too, right?
Yes, and yeah, I would say like for me, I saw so many terms in Japan, English terms in Japan. For example, like S and S. And if I ask you what is S and S, can you guess what it is?
S and S.
Yeah, SNS. Yeah.
S and S.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what's S and S.
Yeah, seems like just people live in Japan get what it is.
Okay.
It actually means social network site.
Ah, okay. Like social media? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of social
Okay.
media or some website.
Okay.
And so this is what interesting about the word English is. You may find out people who share the similar like background. Like for example, like I used to live in Japan for a little bit, and then I understand what it is. So sometimes I would say, yeah, word English is quite interesting because in the past we think like if we are just going to learn a language, we probably just only learn language itself. But actually, culture is something teacher have to take care of. Teacher should take it into consideration. I don't know whether
So
you
like,
agree with.
well, like culture and language is interconnected. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, and yeah, sometimes if the teacher understand a little bit like SNS or something like yeah some culture, and then I think the classroom will be
Yeah.
more interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm currently learning Chinese, and obviously, well, I should say of every language it's like that, but I can evidently see that if you don't understand anything about the culture of, at least with Taiwanese Mandarin, which is what I'm learning, it's difficult to understand some idioms or phrases that you have from there. But I guess in your experience, would you say that it's coming to Australia that the Australian culture is still tied together with Australian English as well, or?
I think so because I kind of found out like Australian tend to shorten everything. For example, like they always shorten my name, and also like they always have very easy way or simple way to describe. For example, I heard like yeah we say McDonald, and then Aussie probably will say Mecca.
Macca's, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even, let's go to Macca's, mate.
Yeah, even like we talk about like Australian, they just call themselves Aussie. Yeah.
Aussies, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's just shortening things just because out of laziness, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, let's go have breakfast. Oh, let's go have brekkie.
Yeah.
And then let's go to McDonald's. And let's go to Macca's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
I would agree. But maybe before we, well, just because I'm confused about this as well. Since you came here, like you're not born in Australia, right?
Yeah.
What is your impression of Australian culture? Then.
I would say it's just a place with with a huge amounts of cafe.
Cafes,
Yeah.
Australia, one and the same.
Yeah, and I checked the information about the coffee culture. I'm kind of very surprised because I would say English-speaking country doesn't really have a very good coffee, but Melbourne is a very special place. Yeah.
Wait. You could offend a lot of people.
Okay.
Which English-speaking countries are you talking about?
Because I would say like I heard like the coffee in the United Kingdom, it's just okay. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't say that because yeah, I
And if
should.
anyone from the UK is like,
Yeah.
that's it, I'm turning off this podcast.
Yeah,
immediately."
yeah, or maybe I shouldn't say that because some people from America they will say, "No, what are you talking about? We have Starbucks and we have Blue Bottles." Yeah,
I'm sure there's one good coffee shop in the UK and America, so
Yeah.
it should be okay.
yeah,
But no, the reason why I asked that is because you were saying that culture and language are intertwined and connected. This is why it's just getting an impression of what Australian culture is and then tying that together with Australian English. Like mentioned before, I'm trying to understand like the interrelation between that and what do you feel that is.
Oh, okay. I would say in terms of my daily life, I kind of feel like it's a very multicultural things. But if you want to know more about like Australian culture, I would say in terms of job application, there will be quite a lot. I experience more. And because I'm also teaching some students to write write the cover letter. And I still remember one of the students, she want to move to Canada. She planned to move to Canada. And about the cover letter in Canada, I would say, wow, if you ask me whether I can write that, I probably can't. It's so poetic to me. Yeah, and in Australia, it's just so straightforward, and everything just tend to be short and very straightforward. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like some people use a metaphor. They say, yeah, Australian English sounds like a man.
A man, is it?
Yeah, and Canadian English sounds like a lady. I don't know whether that's true. That's yeah.
What about Nicole Kidman and all those? I'm trying to remember the one in Wolf from Wall Street. What was her name?
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
No.
Oh no.
Leonardo's not straight. It's not a straight. No, the woman in she was in Wolf from Wall Street, and she's a very I can't remember her name, but yeah, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
I guess it can be like manly man or something like that in Australian, but yeah, there's many. There are many pretty girls with Australian accents, and they sound, trust me, they sound very girly. But I want to go back onto an original topic, just because we're talking about Australian English right now. I think you have a pretty good perspective, just because you're originally from Taiwan. But I guess from there, can you tell me, in terms of world Englishes, how do you feel about the English in Taiwan and how, kind of the environment that's in?
I would say in Taiwan is very American.
American style. Okay.
Yeah, it's very American style, and everyone prefer American accent. Yeah, probably they think it's easier to spot the differences. Yeah, because I would say for some people they think like they prefer British English because they think British English, that intonation is easy to pick up. But for some people they think American English is more obvious, so they can pick up easily. And yeah, I would say English in Taiwan tend to be a bit strict. Yeah, because I still have some tutoring from Taiwan, and I would say sometimes I worry like the mistakes can be the mistakes students have made could be the point they could be the cost to lost more points. Because I kind of think like they are English learner, they shouldn't be punished based on some mistakes, and especially their mistake could be just very tiny, something like just forget an S or forget to use past tense.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I grew up in Australia and then you grew up in Taiwan, but I guess when you're saying that they're strict, you mean that the teachers in particular have a tendency to like try and just be quite, I guess, focus on the wrong things at least. Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes, they kind of want us to write everything so perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does perfect mean exactly?
No mistakes.
No mistakes. So you're talking about like grammar mistakes, or?
Yeah, grammar and spelling mistakes.
And I guess from that perspective, you start from like kindergarten, and then you study all the way pretty much till the end of they call it high school in Australia, but year 12, right?
Actually, no. I actually start to learn English at the age of 12.
At the 12. Oh, right. So so they didn't teach you English when you were like in kindergarten and primary school.
It's more like experimental one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember like in my year 5 and year 6 there are some.
Yeah.
And later they expand to like kindergarten.
Okay, so yeah. Because I know they try and teach English, and I should say obviously in primary school and kindergarten you're not learning super complicated English or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just maybe like having some exposure to extremely basic grammar or the alphabet or something like that.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, I kind of feel like it doesn't matter which age to learn English. Yeah, because I would say there are also some successful cases, like some adult. Yeah, they probably came to Australia like as a refugee, but they learn English quite well. And I still remember one of the students, she can read so fast. And then of course if they can learn since younger age, they will be great. And I would say the key point is really just focus on some grammar and spelling. Because kids can actually learn quite quick. And I would say like I found out like some kids, they learn it since very little. They tend to have more spellings and grammar errors when they grow older, especially when they go to like like year 7, year 8. So I really would say it's important to parents should pay more attention to their kinds of check their spelling and errors, and then the rest just let them study at school. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we will get back to Australian English in terms of that topic soon. I just want to kind of go over the background of English that you learned in Taiwan first before you came to Australia. And I know, well, like you were saying, they all the teachers, including at university, right? They all focused on American accent is how you should be doing it. It's not not even. I don't even. Did they talk about Australian English at all that much, or not really?
No, they don't have that. If you hear the professor would like to share about like British English, then I would say that the courses must be very unique.
Oh, right. It's like a special thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because North American English is the only English now.
Yeah.
So I guess from that kind of perspective, I know that before you came to Australia, you actually didn't have that much of, well, didn't have any American accent or anything like that. What was your journey to learn at least the British variation of English before coming to Australia?
Because I kind of found out I can't really pick up the American accent intonation. So, in the university, I just shadowing BBC.
Oh, the BBC, huh?
Yeah, BBC have so many. At that time, they were just very simple. Yeah, not as big as today. Yeah. Yeah, and I really like BBC because they just provide the script. Yeah, they just provide the script, and then they provide the very short conversation, and then I just shadowing by that. Yeah, and I would say before I came to Australia, my accent is quite mixed because I heard some American accent and some British accent, but generally speaking, the intonation is British accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then shadowing, and then try to speak more. And then that's it.
And by shadowing, you mean like repeating after them in terms of what they say to try and imitate their accent.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by shadowing, right?
Yeah.
So with the BBC, I was gonna say the BBC is a very particular. I can't do a BBC accent. It's like this is the BBC, but I'm not that good at it, right? But in terms of that one, in the UK they have lots of different. Well, in comparison to Australia, they have lots of different accents. Right.
Yeah, I remember that because
like variations, maybe I should.
Yeah, I remember that because I used to join some interpretation training in the past, and I still remember the trainer sent not send something. He just played the British accent, and then that accent is from Birmingham. And it killed many people. It killed many trainees in class. Yeah.
Not literally kill, but
yeah.
but
just made people feel overwhelmed.
Feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because definitely British English is something that I hear a lot, but I don't necessarily. I haven't been to the UK myself, so yeah, I guess I will figure out at the very least. Yeah. But after that, you learned British English, and I know you came to Australia in order to do that, and specifically at the program that you had lots of study into those variations of English going from there. That's correct, right?
Yeah. I kind of enjoy my studies in Australia quite a lot, especially social linguistics. I really like it.
Social linguistics, yeah. Definitely, because I guess I know you were mentioning before that you were kind of surprised that Australian English, like talking to the people in Australia, a lot of them actually wanted to adopt a Australian English accent in their home countries. Can you talk a little bit about that topic, and just talk about what you know in regards to that?
You mean like they want to teach Australian
like
English?
Just say if they're if you have like Indonesians, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Indonesia has like a lot of exposure to Australia, and I would say like some like Southeast Asian countries in particular, they like to have that Australian accent English because they just have so much dealings with Australians, right?
Oh.
And that's the difference from say like Taiwan, where Taiwan's still in Asia, but they focus on the American styled English.
Yeah.
I guess just because of what I remember, at least, you were talking about there's a big market for that Australian English in those countries.
Yeah, I kind of found out like because when I study at in the university here, I found out there are many Vietnamese, Indonesian, and some Southeast Asian. They're probably granted with scholarship, and their job, I mean, after they graduate from the university, their job is to teach English in their home country. And then what do you mean by I can interpret like what you mean by having an Australian accent in their home country is one type of way to show their professional identity. Because sometimes I kind of think like in the past, like we know like like I said, my training was very strict. We have to speak in American accent, but not many people can do that. And I still remember the professor just say, people can hear whether your English is good or not just by how you speak. And then I kind of feel like somehow teacher have to show a little bit about about like accent. How much they can pick it up. And then I kind of feel like that is one type, it's called professional identity. Because if we just imagine if I speak like if we speak English with very obvious Asian accent, and then I can't be that persuasive in class. So this is why I assume like those teachers they pick up Australian accent quite a lot, and then they always almost like shape their professional identity by immersing in Australian culture.
Definitely. Because it's the thing where I know that when people come to Australia, you already had like an extremely good level of English before you even lived in any English speaking countries. You studied really hard on that. But I guess what you if I remember what you said you discovered was that when people come to Australia, like Taiwanese are not necessarily. Some Taiwanese say that like, oh, I'm not used to hearing the Australian accent. It's a bit hard to understand. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I think that could be there are some reason can explain. I can account for this. The first is probably they didn't listen to Australian English before, so they don't know like what it's supposed to be. So they kind of lose track in their brain. And second is, probably I would say they didn't practice enough. They didn't try hard enough.
Because I should say that we have plenty of in terms of the regular like person, we'll just talk about in terms of the Asian context, right? They come for working holiday, they come for study, maybe they come as part of tourists, whatever it is. They have varying degrees of English, and I know that sometimes it's even like with my parents, they came as refugees, and their English was like almost zero, pretty low, right? I know that you discovered there's a lot of adult migrant English programs here that try to teach migrants, whoever they are, English in the Australian context. I guess, can you tell me more about your experiences and just what you figured out about these kind of programs?
I kind of feel like this program is very interesting, and I know like some people may say it's probably not that stressed, but it's probably not that hard. Yes, I would say generally the content is not that hard because I would say teaching elementary level and low intermediate level is probably not that hard in terms of like the course preparation. But I would say I always feel like the most simple thing is actually the hardest things to teach. So this is how I feel about the adult migrant English program. Because I kind of think like there are so many things we have to be more careful. For example, like whether we are able to communicate with students. So sometimes I would say, if someone can speak their language, that would be great. Because there will be some time they need to bridge from like their mother tongue to other language, and then old English may be quite shocking. Yeah, and also like another thing I would say is, yeah, we also need to care more about like the psychological effect. Yeah, because culture shock is something I would say is so shocking to me too.
Culture shock?
Yeah, because I would say, yeah, because in the past in Asia we don't really care about the psychology. Yeah, we don't think that's a problem, because for some people they will have a kind of like idea it is, oh yeah, you are living overseas, you should feel lucky. Yeah.
Like you'll instantly learn English just because by being overseas, right?
Yeah, but I kind of feel like if something like that simple, then we probably can send some, like people suffer from mental disease overseas, and then they will be very happy after that, right? Yeah, of course I think like of course the doctor or like psychiatry, like some psychologists, they probably will say, no, it's not that simple. And this is, I would say, the culture shock is not that simple, and teachers have to be quite careful about their wording. They can't speak whatever they want. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Because I guess onto that type of topic of just having culture shock and stuff like that. I guess we can just talk about like from the young Taiwanese person's perspective. They study English technically for several years in school, but it's not that everyone is instantly fluent, even though they studied for literally maybe plus 7, 8 years, right? Yeah, so you get very, very different levels. I guess when they go to Australia and they study overseas, we were just joking about that. There is that impression that if you live overseas, you just instantly become fluent as well. I guess what are your experiences in terms of this kind of phenomenon?
I would say I would use the word like fallacy to describe that. I know it's a big word.
Fallacy,
yeah. Anyway, fallacy is a kind of, it means like people has a kind of idea, like, they think, for example, like they think study overseas will make a person's English become better, but the reality is not. And this is what we say it will be a fallacy. And anyway, go back to the topic. I would say, to be honest, I feel like if a person want to be very fluent in English, they have to join lots of local community to talk to quite a lot of people, and they also have to keep consulting with teacher about their writing skills. This is what I would say about like study overseas.
Because it depends on like the motivation of the person. Like I'll give it me, like I'm learning Chinese, but I'm not doing it in like a Chinese speaking country. But obviously because, well, it's extremely practical for me to understand Chinese and speak Chinese. This is why I'm doing it. And the same goes for like, if you're living in that country but you're not motivated to necessarily, learn English per se. Like I should say of Australians when they go to like Taiwan, sometimes it's exactly the same, where they literally just speak English with other English speakers in Taiwan and go, hey, wait a second, how did my Chinese not get good when I was just speaking English the whole time? Oh, what a fallacy. But it's the same thing, I think, from that. But I guess, do you believe that motivation is a key factor to
I think it is,
learning
because
as well?
you also remind me one of my friend, although she's learning Chinese in Taiwan, and and she, to be honest, I kind of amazed at her Chinese ability. Because she just only studied in Chinese language school for a year, and then later she passed the like university entrance exam, and then I just feel like, wow, your Chinese is so good. It's almost like a native. And then she told me like, when she studied in the language school, she just keep talking to the local.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. It just depends on the, there's no magical thing that will make you better at languages, right?
No, it's not. And I also heard the other cases in Australia. Like there are so many Hong Kong asylum seeker. Means like they came to Australia for a safer place, and and then they live in Australia. Like just come after 1997.
Mm.
Yeah, they live in Australia for more than 10 years.
Mm.
But they just only speak Cantonese and living in Cantonese community. And how can they really speak very good English here?
Yeah, Melbourne's a lot like that, but we can talk about that another time. At least
Yeah.
anyway. But I have something over here that I wanted to talk about. You mentioned something about proficiency and pragmatics. Now, you being the linguistics nerd that you are,
Yeah.
can you explain what do you mean by what is proficiency and then what is pragmatics in terms of the language learning process we're talking about here?
I would say proficiency is just like our actual
Mm.
language level.
Mm.
Yeah, for example, like if we go to take the exam, like IELTS or TOEFL, our score just shows our proficiency.
Ah.
And of course, testing is another story. Yeah, testing can lead to another big story.
Ah.
Yeah, because testing is something I would say it needs to be very carefully designed. And also like the teacher have to have more relatively I would say the teacher have to respond to the relevant plan. Yeah, they have to do that. Yeah, so testing is another big story. I won't discuss that. I just purely talk about the proficiency. Proficiency just like our actual language level. And then there are many ways to assess that. Yeah, testing is just a quick way. Yeah. And pragmatic is how the language has been used. Yeah, for example, there are so many Australian English slang. Yeah, like cheers. Yeah. Yeah, if you just ask some Taiwanese, do you know what cheers mean in Australia? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of the idea that you can do very well, like with proficiency, you can do very well on a test and be very proficient at using English. But in terms of pragmatics, it could be that they throw you in the middle of country Australia and you say, oh, I have no idea what anyone is saying around here.
Yes, yes.
This sort of thing, just because it's not the practical use of that English.
Yes.
In that
And
sense.
it also reminds me like one of the professor in Taiwan, and she's from Vancouver. And she told us like she did her PhD in one of the city in America. And she say she found out like when she entered the campus, and she found out she couldn't understand their American slang.
Oh, right.
Yeah, even native speaker had this issue. So
American
I
slang.
would say like for non-native speakers, I would encourage non-native speaker like don't feel discouraged by this.
I think it's a lot harder to understand Australian slang too, because to be honest, like globally, I don't think a lot of Australian shows are projected like around the globe, whereas American shows you see them everywhere. So this is where, if you watch, I don't know, Friends or Game of Thrones, whatever TV show it is, they're probably using a little bit of slang here and there, depending on what show it is. But yeah, I don't think in Asia they watch a huge amount of Australian shows. At least you don't, right?
I just only watched one Australian movie, and by the way, I would say
Which movie was it?
yeah. By the way, let me talk more about this because I found out like Australian movie, like you say, Australian movie, Australian TV show is relatively little. Yeah, so this is why people couldn't understand why. Yeah, and by the way, that movie is called The Little Death.
Oh, The Little Death.
Yeah, it just I would say that one is so it's full of black humor. Yeah, because I actually watched that just because I think like I'm going to come to Australia. I was going to come to Australia. And I think I should watch something like Australian movie. Or watching something like Australian accent English, that kind of things, like to help me to understand what is Australian culture.
Yeah.
And that one is the only one I found, about Australian, movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. There you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to go back onto, just because I'm still thinking about the proficiency and pragmatics. I guess from your experience living in Australia, is it the thing where, just studying overseas and living overseas and being in Australia, how much do you think proficiency and pragmatics gets improved just by living there?
I would say in terms of proficiency, I did improve quite a lot. But what I mean is I also work quite hard at the same time because I kind of a person, I just prefer like stay at home and study English and do lots of things at home. Yeah, so this is and also join some like local community, like for example being a volunteer. Yeah, so help me to talk to like different kinds of person really helps me a lot. Yeah, so this is why my listening and speaking already reach more than 8 in IELTS. And also my reading and writing also improved because I just keep asking questions. Yeah, when I was in the university. Yeah, and yeah, that's how I feel like the way the proficiency will improve. Yeah, because I would say when I think it's probably the same as every language in an advanced level, we have to work extra hard, and to just use some strategy to make it higher. Yeah, and about the pragmatics, I would say I'm still learning it. Yeah, because I can't say my pragmatic skill is really good, but at this I know like how to write a cover letter and how to communicate with Aussie. But I believe it never ends. Yeah, so I still need to keep learning what is pragmatics.
Yeah, you'll get better. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be, well, in Australian English they say you'll be alright. You'll be alright.
Yeah.
No. Awesome. So I think well, I've run out of topics to talk about, at least from the. Maybe we can well, do you want to end the podcast there, or?
Yeah, maybe we just call it a day now. Yeah.
Well, anyways, this is Luke and Chloe from Chloe English, and yeah, until the next podcast.
We will talk more about like Australia, and looking forward to the our description about like Queensland trip.
All right, see yous.
Have a good day.